You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 608, the first of two episodes we are going to do covering Tales of the Underworld. Tonight, we're going to break down the Asajj Ventress episodes that, I don't know, a couple years ago, I don't think we would have ever thought we'd gotten until we saw her reappear in the Bad Batch. But to help me break all that down is, of course, Jonesy. Jonesy, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. I'm really curious. You were unmuted in the green room, like when the video was playing, so I could hear you say all the stuff. I'm curious if that's going to show up on the edit or not.
Oh, that'd be funny if that actually did.
I'm going to leave it in there. I'm going to leave it in there if it's there.
That'll be nice. That'll be a nice little surprise. Easter egg time, behind the scenes stuff. No, nobody wants that. But how's it going, man?
Oh, it's going all right. It's going all right. A holiday weekend for us here in the U.S. So, we, of course, take a moment to pause and remember all of those who have given the greatest sacrifice in supporting our country and kind of our beliefs and things like that. So huge thanks to and remembrance for all of those who have in our Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
I'll just stop mumbling about it. Yeah.
No, for sure. I think you and I both have family members and know people that have impacted, and it's a big deal. So let's honor them for sure. But yeah, this is these are two episodes that we're finally getting around to doing. It's been a while now, since May 4th, technically, I think is when this thing launched. So here we are, 3 weeks later, finally getting around to it. But we had a lot going on with Andor and a couple other things that have happened. So it's fun to finally just break into these things and not feel pressure either. Like, we're not trying to get this out quickly. And I've had a chance to watch these now 3 or 4 times. Right. So I would say, I'll say my opening thoughts here in a little bit. But before we get started,
it was weird having like 15-minute episodes. I was like, wait a minute, it's over?
Yeah. I was expecting, a 3.5 hour, grind to get all that stuff done. But yeah, this is a nice little refresher kind of thing. So.
It's always a nice little refresher, Albert, is our amazing Patreon members. Every single week they show up for us. So thank you all to all of our Patreon members, especially our now part of the tribe members, Alex, Danny, Mike, Lauren, Dante, Riss, Jackson, Sharkman, Dan, Daz, Uncle Leon, Josh, Jacob, Reader Reborn, and I've got a Brad feeling. And our Delusions Grandeur members, our top tier. Now this is Rod Racing, CJ, Steve, and Rob. If you're curious about Patreon, cantinacast.com/Patreon, you are going to want to sign up though, because if you're at one of those top tiers, you are locked into place to join us on a Andor top 3 if you're interested. So if you're a Patreon member right now, please go out there to the post to have. It's pinned up at the top. We'd love to have you express your interest, get you on the show. Thank you to those who have already expressed interest as well. As soon as we get all the names here in the next couple of days, I'll start reaching out and seeing what we can do. So really excited about that. We're going to talk about our top 3 moments from Andor, top 2 honorable mentions, and we're going to leave it at that.
2? I don't think so.
Yeah, just 2.
Nice try. I don't believe you. But yeah, it's going to be fun, honestly, because I'm not over talking about Andor by any means. And again, trying to narrow down the top 3 moments is kind of, I don't know, some mental gymnastics going in my head to get there first off. But
there's probably 1 or 2 that are probably going to be pretty consistent at the top. But you're right, there are so many cool moments throughout it that it's going to be interesting to see if everybody really. I doubt anybody's going to have the same top 3. There's probably going to be 1 or 2 that might be a little bit consistent in there, but it's going to be really interesting to see where everyone's top tier moments really shake out, because our Patreon members surprise us in the best possible way a lot of times. So what they come up with. So it's going to be a fun show. We hope everyone to come out there and enjoy us. Again, cantinacast.com/Patreon if you're interested. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you for the download. We appreciate you listening in and we appreciate your support. We'd invite you to come out to our live stream, cantinacast.com/YouTube. Follow us on the social medias. We let you know when we're going to be live, usually Wednesdays and Sunday nights around 9 p.m. Central Time, also known as the best standard time. And we'd love to have you come out here and join us, like Zarallan's Music Train, One of our CPU, Jorge, Alex is out there as well. Thank you to everyone who comes out on YouTube. And also thank you for all the support you guys give us on YouTube with the memberships. So Zarallan's gave out 5 last week. That's amazing. Alex, we've got so many others, Katya, Jorge, Squad Anthony, Kyle, Star Wars Act 88, Danny, and Alex, of course. So yeah, thanks to everyone who's on the YouTube membership so far. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's exciting. By the way, it's exciting for the Andor show. Just to go back to that really quickly, we may have some people that have never been on the show for a live stream or recording. So that'll be fun it's always nice to have new faces in. I love all the old faces, but it's always cool to have new faces in there as well. And speaking of podcasts, you mentioned podcasts and downloads and all that. There was a review that came in back in February, and we completely didn't catch it. I think we had it on the show notes at one point, and I don't remember why we didn't cover it, but we're going to give that due now. So this came in back in February. This is from BWB 1982. It's a 5-star rating, so thank you very much, first off, for doing that. It says, thorough, honest, but non-bashing breakdowns. It says, love Albert and Jonesy, and even Mike, even though I disagree with him most of the time. He makes fun of himself, and it's entertaining. These guys love Star Wars and break down all the Star Wars media. I usually listen to the shows after the movies or shows have already been out. I hate any kind of spoiler, so I avoid them religiously. A lot of fans seem to get stuck on their own expectations instead of just enjoying stories we are presented with, the great characters and their progressions. And the Cantina Cast guys are wonderful at pointing out all the subtleties in the storytelling. Thank you for the great podcast. So thank you very much for that review. It was very, very nice to see that. And I love the fact that they, prodded Mike, because, that's just a cherry on the top. So thank you very much, BWB 1982.
It's always nice to reach out to Mike and remind him that, hey, people do remember you. People still love you. They still love to argue with you. So nothing has really changed, bud. We appreciate everything you've done for the show. People still remember you.
Yeah. Sometimes not always good, but they remember you, right? I mean, that's the most important. No, I'm kidding. But
thanks to BWD for spelling my name right. You'd be surprised how many people misspell Jones. It's really crazy.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy. Yeah. But head out to Apple Podcasts, iTunes, whatever it's called these days, and feel free to give us a review, and we'll read it here on the air. So thank you again for that. Sorry we missed it, and sorry it took so long to get around to it.
Yeah, okay. And then real quick, on Wednesday, we're going to come back and do another Tales of the Underworld. We're going to come back and do the Cad Bane story arc. So love for you to come out and join us there. We'll probably do that Wednesday at 9 p.m. as well. All right.
Well, let's do this now. Let's talk about these first, I guess, the 3 episodes for Ventress. We've got Nika Futterman back. It feels like, I don't know that she ever, when she signed up to do this back in Clone Wars, if she ever thought, the year would be 2025. And she's still voicing this character and having done so in a lot of different other shows now and media as well. So, but give me your, I guess, kind of initial thoughts on these 3 episodes, the arc, and then kind of overall feelings and thoughts around the character of Asajj Ventress now that she's been on this incredible journey and continues to do so.
Well, most people have listened to the show any amount of time know how much I love the character of Asajj Ventress. I'm a huge fan of Dark Disciple, of course, too. So this picked up right at the end of that and gave us such a great segue from that book. Connected tissue is always really important, from that book into the storyline to kind of fill that gap. I just wanted more of it. I mean, I just kept wanting, we could have lingered and just done a whole episode as to what that conversation with Mother Talzin meant. And I would have been happy as a clam if that was all we got. So this was really cool to be able to come back and explore the character a little bit more, a little bit further. Nika Futterman is just amazing. And what's really great about her voice acting is not only because she is Asajj Ventress and the way that she portrays this character is just sultry yet dark and gritty, but she has evolved the character voice for this series because it's a little bit lighter now. It doesn't have it still has its moments, right? It still has that grit. She still has that kind of that growl of sorts to her, but there are much lighter moments more frequently with the character. Not only what you see visually on the screen, if she actually has a smile and they seem more genuine or rolling her eyes, but the voice acting in general, you could just hear the difference, which I think is a huge selling point to make sure that we all understand that the character is very different. It's not just words, and she's actually living a different lifestyle intentionally. And so that's really great to see the evolution of the character with the voice actors, really making that come to life. I think overall, I got to be honest, the episodes fell a little flat for me. The Cad Bane ones did too, in all honesty. I liked the first episode quite a bit. Second episode was pretty decent. Third one, I think, is the one that just kind of fell off, for me. So they weren't, I wanted more from them, I guess. I really could have, probably, like I said, I could have lasted, or we could have stayed with what we started in the first arc or in the first few minutes and explored more of what Asajj Ventress did. like during that first time. And I don't know if there was even a time jump or whatever, because we see the pools completely change, of course, whenever she's resurrected.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, we are going to do spoilers tonight, so you've been warned. Spoilers. Well, you've been warned a little bit late, but sorry, this is what we do. So, so I think from that respect, like there were some really good moments. There was good episode action sequences, but I think maybe if I were to have a flaw in the show or kind of a disappointment, it kind of felt like another episode of The Bad Batch, kind of felt like another episode of Clone Wars. And usually that's pretty good. And it's not a bad episode, but it was just kind of routine, I guess, at that point. But so again, good moments in it. So I'm not complaining about it. I'm definitely love that we got this from the character. I like the arc overall for the most part, but it just felt like we've been here before, and we did a lot of callbacks, and some things were pretty obvious, and some of the sound effects actually I wasn't really a big fan of in this one too. But so we'll kind of talk about through some of the goods and maybe the weaker points for me as we go through. But what about you?
Yeah, I'm probably the easier one to please when it comes to Star Wars, I think, if you've ever listened to the show. So I really enjoyed these episodes. I think my only feedback, and I think this is feedback that continues to be the same for any of the Tales of series, is it just feels like it's so short. And I mean, they are short. This was like 45 minutes. We get Asajj Ventress back for like at most 45 minutes. And we're left hanging yet again. And like, the turnaround time on these sometimes can be a year or 2 years before we get anything back. So I guess my hope is that this was a soft reintroduction of the character after we had gotten teased with the Bad Batch and like, holy bananas, how is she even here? This was, oh, by the way, she's still around. Don't lose sight of her, because next year or this fall, there's going to be a series now that's focused on Asajj Ventress and the path and, Quinlan Voss and whatever else, right? I mean, clearly that's not where she's going at the end of this little series, but it feels like this is, it's nice. It's a refresher. It's nice to have her back in the universe. And I just I'm hoping that it's not going to be a one and done thing, and we're going to have to wait another, 2 or 3 years before we get anything back from her. So I feel kind of like shorted in that regard, but I enjoyed these episodes. I loved Lyko. I thought his character was really great. I loved the interaction with them. They were just kind of like, it was almost like a, the professional or, some of these old, where you've got like the older person with the younger person and they're clashing. There's a generational gap right here going on. We saw bits and pieces of that happening there where they're, he called her old at one point, right? We've all been there now. I think most of us anyways here. But yeah, hearing just the banter back and forth was really great. So I was really, when I've watched this the first time, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, she's leaving and they're not going to be together anymore. And so I was really happy at the very end. Like I was surprised that he came back, because I was not expecting that. I think I was too caught in the emotion of, oh, she's not going to find Quinlan, which I was like, holy crap, that's what I wanted. And she's not doing it. So I got lost in that. And so when he popped up,
I have questions about that too.
Well, yeah. When he popped up, I don't think I have answers for it, because I've got questions about it too. But when he popped up at the very end, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, this is a cool little dynamic duo that we got going on here. I'd love to see more of their adventures, because you've got this beacon of light. Like he's emanating. He's doing all the things that a Jedi would do. He's acting like a Jedi, as Ventress told him not to do. And then you've got Ventress, who's still in this kind of transitional period, right? She's not a Jedi. She's not for the Empire. She's kind of really only out for herself at this point, and she's got this new lease on life. And like, what does she want to do with it? I don't think bringing this kid along was in the game plan, right? That wasn't on the roadmap of where she was going to set out on this new adventure of her new life. And so that dynamic is very intriguing to me. So that's where I'm kind of hoping this all goes. But overall, I enjoyed the 3 episodes. They felt a little short, if anything. But let's start with the very beginning, because I mean,
let me ask you a question first. Where do you think this sits in the timeline? Like, is this before Bad Batch season 3 when we see her, or is this after Bad Batch season 3? Because it's a little ambiguous. It's clearly after Order 66, and I think Bad Batch season 3 is roughly a year after Order 66. So where do you think this slots in? Is this before or after she sees Omega?
I think this is after Omega. I can make arguments for both.
Yeah, the same here.
But I think I felt like more of my arguments fell on the side of this is after the Bad Batch. But I went to go look and I couldn't find anything one way or the other. I saw a lot of debate on Reddit, and
always a hotbed for facts and knowledge. Yeah.
Right. But there's some really good people on Reddit, but even there, you could see people were making this 15 paragraph stance on why it's before, and then somebody comes back and pokes holes in all 15 of those and said, here's 16 on why it's after. And I'm like, wow, they make some great points. So I don't know. And I don't honestly have not, I went and poked around before we went on the air here just to see if anybody had, come out and confirmed that whether this was before or after, but I hadn't seen anything yet. But I'm going with after.
I think
not much after. Not much
I think
after.
it's before, actually, because why would... Well, like you said, you could poke holes in this stuff, and I don't have any strong conviction about this, by the way.
No, I don't either, by the way. Yeah.
I think it's before, because why else would Asajj Ventress go out looking for someone who is potentially Force sensitive or whatnot with Omega? I think it's maybe one question, because she was not doing that before, or in these episodes, right, with Lyco. She just kind of stumbled on him. And then, but if it does come before, then where the heck is Lyco?
That's
exactly she goes to see Omega, right?
Right.
So it's like one way or the other. You can kind of flip flop as to which one. Of course, you can have a character stay behind and do something else too. That's easy enough. But it's a little ambiguous where it fits in the timeline, and that kind of thing. I just wish we had more clarity on some of that. With some of the Star Wars stuff we've had, sometimes it's been very, very clear, and other times we're having to kind of figure out where exactly is this fitting in with other content. And this is the drawback of when we have overlapping content, or we keep going to a certain timeline all the time, like Clone Wars or after, and now in Order 66 or post Order 66, it's trying to figure out where these things sit on top of each other and fit in the timeline is a little more difficult the more content we get, especially when it's starting to, like, this phase right after Order 66 seems kind of crowded at this point too. So which one's happening when?
Yeah. There is a lot of crowding that still continues to happen in this whole timeline.
I don't know that it matters or it hurts anything necessarily, but it does make it a little confusing.
Yeah. I wish they would just tell us, because honestly, that would at least help set my compass on like what we should be talking about. And it would probably firm up a couple of speculations I have. The biggest one is the Lyco thing. It's like, they clearly are a thing, right? They're partners. And so if it takes place before, then why did they set all that up? She just drops him off somewhere and he goes and, trains to be a Jedi with the path and then leaves. It feels like it kind of does a disservice to his arc in some ways, or the fact that they got together. But anyways, we can, I'm good either way, I guess is what I'm saying. So just quickly on the comments, Alan says, I'm a big Asajj girly, but I was never a fan of Dark Disciple. I'm not too fond of her in the TOTU episodes either. I find that the Bad Batch did a much better comeback of her character than this canonical version of her. She said, that said, I did like elements of it. I preferred if they showed something else for her.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think most of that I kind of agree with. I wish we could have kind of done a little bit different arc, this post-resurrection thing. I think would have been interesting to see what else we could have come up with. But
yeah. And part of that is what I was saying earlier. It's like, okay, this is cool, but where's the rest of it? Like, I want more of Asajj now that she's out. I mean, you've let the cat out of the bag, literally. So, One Up versus CPU says, I think this is before. He says what Jonesy said. I think she's already in the path in Bad Batch. So, you can see where that would also track.
Yeah. And that's where my second question is going to be once we start the episode here.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the episode. And, I mean, you and I were both surprised that they just kind of went right into this and opened up with it. We had heard people breaking it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Made a lot of sense.
Made a lot of sense because, we had questions, and especially when she just showed up in the Bad Batch, we're like, okay, well, what happened here? I got a chance to go back and read the last couple passages when, she's being buried, and it tracks. Like, everything seems to be like lining up pretty well. So kudos to them. But the fact that we got Quinlan Vos, I mean, we bring his name up in everything. Like, oh, it's Quinlan Vos. He's going to show up as an Easter egg this year or whatever. And finally, Quinlan Vos shows up in this one episode. He talks about, she often spoke of returning here. That was obviously a callback to the book. Right. The question that I have is really about, he says, I'll always love you. He has the tear that falls out of his eye. I think it hits her hand, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yeah.
So there's probably something in there, right, as well. But all of that said, Towson says, okay, you can go back. The Jedi's words are a gift to you. But that's where I guess where my first question is like, so she was allowed to come back, but she had to give up her heart's desire, meaning what? Like, she's not allowed to go find him now, or is her love lost and she just still recognizes and acknowledges that, oh, I know this guy, but somehow my heart has been erased. And where I'm going with these questions is my own headcanon, because I think, and by the way, I got the other one right too, the Cad Bane one about him having a kid. Remember that?
Yeah.
I'll bring that up next episode.
I'm angry about that one too.
Yeah, I know you are. But so here's another one that you're not going to like. So in my head canon, I feel like, yes, she's no longer in love with him. And she knows that she had, probably he was a Jedi, or she's got like memory loss in some ways. She knows who he is or whatever, there's something that's compelling her to go look for him. And she kind of, says, no, I'm not going to do it at the very end of this arc. But then I'd love to see actually Quinlan Vos go after her, and then they rekindle their relationship. Like she, you know what I mean? Like, I know it's cliche, but it's like the amnesia thing where the person has amnesia. They don't remember loving this person ever. And then suddenly through interactions and memories and great montages, they suddenly come back together as a couple. But I'd love to see that romance angle come into all of this with Quinlan Vos, chasing her. But I think you hate that.
You are the ultimate shipper. Actually, I don't hate it, actually.
Okay.
I mean, because there's a part, we always want kind of a happy ending, right? We want characters who are kind of star-crossed, or they just can't seem to catch a break, or they've made so many mistakes and then someone sees something different about them. That there's a certain side of redemption that I think that Asajj Ventress is somewhat earned. I think the book went a really long way to bring that character forward and kind of evolve her quite a bit.
Yeah.
But you're right, this is confusing. As much as I loved this whole sequence, like visually it was amazing. I love we had all of the voice actors there. I love seeing the Night Sisters come back and talk about their realm rather than like the cosmic force and things like that. Again, it's just a sneaky variety of what we've been exposed to in other Star Wars content with Yoda and Qui-Gon Jinn and so on and so forth, right? So I love that we got it, but it was confusing. And this is where, while that's great, we don't need to have it all spoon-fed to us. We need more understanding about what this was. Because when he said, or when Mother Talzin said it was going to cost her her heart's desire, I was like, okay, they're going to go the amnesia route, like straight up amnesia. She's going to have to forget everything about it or have all that love ripped out of her. But what we see on screen throughout the rest of the 3 episodes is that, no, she seems to remember who Quinlan Vos is. She seems to remember that she cares for him. But is there some physical barrier or mystical barrier that will prevent her from being able to follow her heart's desire? Like that, it's the heart's desire that confuses me incredibly, because she still clearly has emotions and feelings for him. At least that's the impression I got. Like they are still there. But what is it, aside from her maybe not following, that's maybe not her path right now, or she needs to kind of figure out who she is on her own, and Quinlan's got his path and she can't follow him for his path. Like how it all fit together confused me a little bit, and I wish we would have had a little more exposition in that, in kind of in that realm, to be able to help us understand, like, is there something actually preventing her from doing something? Also, you mentioned the tear, and the words were a gift. Like, okay, what does that actually mean? Like, what words were the actual gift? Is it that I'll always love you, and that's somehow some combination of all of this, and the Night Sister magic, and where they're at was some sort of gift of second chances, or and again, within this mystical place, there's just some different variety of what they can actually draw upon. It's just a new variation of the Force kind of thing.
Yeah.
Those are just questions that they all surfaced in my mind. I didn't understand how they fit together to create this opportunity for Asajj. And then if it was going to cost her heart's desire, Albert, why did she choose it? Like the one thing that she is also the why, right? So why did she feel compelled to come back to life if she couldn't have the one thing that she actually wanted?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a good question. I think at the end of the day, Ventress I'm not going to say she's always been, she's about herself, only about herself, but she is kind of the ultimate survivor, much like Maul is in a lot of ways, right? She's going to do whatever she needs to do to kind of continue living her life. If given the opportunity to go hang out with the sisters in the afterworld, or come back to the real world where she's still, had made a name for herself and had distinguished herself and had a new kind of gig going on before she died, I'd probably want to go to that than go to the afterworld. That didn't seem very exciting, especially if you're hanging out with, lousy Mother Talzin of all people. So there might have been a part of it that was like, okay, yeah, I'll give this up. Because at the end of the day, I just want to stay alive. And that's really all it was. It was just self-preservation more than anything. I know that sounds kind of basic and cheap, but that may be it. I just think that there's more to it. I think that romance piece is still there. I suspect that if they do bring her back in whatever series or whatever goes, it feels like they have to come back to this. And whether or not it's like they're going to be, I don't want it to turn a full-in love story where they're, going up, their love is being, blocked by the forces of Dathomirian magic, and right, and they're having to figure out how to work through all of that. I don't think we need to go there.
I would actually like that.
Okay, all right, we're done.
But how cool would that be if you physically couldn't get near each other because of some barrier? I mean, that would be interesting. And there's this big green barrier. Mother Talzin's like, otherwise our deal is over, and you've got to come back to the land of the dead.
It feels like Disney fairy tale ish, the way that we're setting this up, which I don't mind, by the way. I think it's perfect, right? Because it's Disney. But I don't know. Yeah, and then there's a baby. That's exactly right. So she's got a baby in her, and that's why she decided to come back to save the baby. Yep. Alex has got it. All right. Anyways, so she does come back. She leaves. That's the last that we, at least at this moment, think we're going to hear or see from Quinlan Voss, and that turns out to not be the case. Fast forward, she's now working as this bouncer, kind of security guard, and in like a spaceport of things. I love the way she took out that Rhodian, just embarrassed him, humiliated him right there, and chucked him out the door there. But yeah, I mean, she's kind of like enjoying this life. It's simple, and she's good at what she's doing. She doesn't have the people on her like the Empire or anyone else really. And then she can't escape her destiny, right? Because at the end of the day, this is when Lyko comes in. And she realizes that Lyko's sitting there trying to use the Force and persuade the spaceport clerk or cashier or whatever the heck she was. And then them pairing up. Like when we broke down the trailer, I think we got pretty much, I think this right at least. But it was really nice and neat to see her use the Force the way she did when it was time to go time when they had come in. She's very nonchalantly just kind of points like, here we go. It closes the door with the Force. Whips out the lightsaber. Lyko pulls out his lightsaber. I love that character. I really do. Like, he just feels like that raging, like he's the cookie cutter, skeleton of what we suspect the Jedi to be. Just so he feels almost brash. He's very brave. He's very in touch with his senses and the sanctity of life and all of that. But he just seems so pure at heart. That I love the fact that he's now paired up with Ventress, and I don't think he realizes it. We get to see bits and pieces of it, but I just feel like that's going to be so much more that gets explored here should they come back together. So yeah, let me just kind of leave it there. I guess any thoughts around that part and how they meet, their origin story, and then them heading off.
It was good. I think when you have Lyko still being the pure Jedi, I think like you said, it was probably the best way of putting it, but. You just can't turn it off. And we've seen this with the Jedi. We've seen this with the Inquisitors during the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. They can't help themselves. Yep. And you see it throughout the 3 episodes where Lyko just can't help but respond like a Jedi. And Asajj calls it out right away. Like, you just can't stop it. Like, you look, you smell, you are a Jedi through and through, and you just can't help it because you don't know any different. Yep. And that's why they keep getting found, right? As the Empire comes and picks them off with the Inquisitors or with Vader or whomever. That's why they keep getting found, because they just can't help it stepping in and doing the right thing. And they can't help but make mistakes because they're just used to, being able to do what they want and being able to kind of maneuver through their way through the galaxy without really much effort. So it's a very different experience for them. But it's interesting that Asajj is okay with kind of defending him though, too. She's willing to sacrifice the life that she's kind of, carved out for herself, this quieter life. One of maybe just peace. Finally, she just finally has something of peace. She's following her own direction, and then this teenager kind of pops into her life and kind of wrecks it. And she still feels obligated to be able to protect him and somehow get him off in the right way, because she knows what the Empire is doing is not right either. And the Jedi. And I want to say that her experiences with Ahsoka is kind of what's enabling a lot of this for Lyko in particular. Yeah,
no, that's a good point, and I kind of want to. I don't want to detract too much before we go any further, though. A lot of people have talked about where does this lead Asajj Ventress? Is she going to still always be the Asajj that we knew from? Well, she's not the Asajj that we knew from the Clone Wars, but definitely more along the lines of the Asajj from later part of the Clone Wars, right after that she had been betrayed by Dooku and all that. Certainly more along the lines of the Asajj Ventress that we saw or read about in the novel. Part of that is the Bad Batch, but do you think we're ever going to get a full return to the light Asajj Ventress? And the reason I ask this is because I do find it interesting. I've already said this 4 times, but I'm going to say it again. But I find it interesting that they've paired her up with somebody like Lyko. And I think if there's any one thing that could make her finally come around, it almost feels like Lyko would be the one that was compelling that. Like there would be opportunities for him to really try to like, oh, this is my mission. I'm going to get her to kind of see her ways. Cause I don't remember. He never said that she never said that she was a Jedi, right? At any point. Right. So
right, he called her a Jedi, but she said,
yeah,
no.
she never acknowledged that I was at one point kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
She's already found the light. So, I mean, that she's already there. The book like made that pretty clear. And I think for people who haven't read Dark Disciple, that might not be as clear, but I think even what you pointed out towards the end of the Clone Wars, you start to see this change in her, that she's not dark. She's, right. I mean, well, she's still dark in a sense because she's working for money, working for bounties. She's willing to still what needs to be done in order to survive. And I think we still see that here. But I think she's already kind of found the light, through Quinlan Voss. I think maybe the question you're asking is whether or not she'll embrace the Jedi light or the way of like the Jedi way. Mm-hmm. Is that maybe more of where you're going?
Yeah. Will she go full Jedi air quotes? Because I mean, there's no, Jedi order right now.
I hope not. I mean, I like that she's kind of independent, right? And again, will she be so quick to kill if necessary? Like she tells Lyko, like, hey, if something goes wrong, you kill them immediately and you do it. She might back off that line. She might preserve life more often, and she's probably kind of already started in some ways. But she might back off that line a little bit. But I don't know that I want her to go like full on Jedi though either in a way. Now, if it meant her and Quinlan Voss getting together, I'd probably support it though, Albert. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, okay. That's a good answer.
So I got there for you.
I mean, thank you. Well, I mean, if she's got Quinlan and she's got Lyko, there was was it the Star Wars comic where Luke found like her old master Kynark's like journal, or what the heck was it? It wasn't a holocron, but Luke Skywalker found something from her old master, and I thought, well, maybe she goes, they give that to her, and like, holy crap, haven't seen this in years, kind of thing.
Albert, don't sour my mood by talking about the comic books.
Okay, all right. I should have asked you to put the hat on first. Sorry. Okay, I apologize, but all right. Well, let's get back to the show. I guess to the episode here. So we get into this whole thing where he keeps calling her a Jedi. He's like, wow, I didn't know you were around, and how did you live? And, you can just feel her like seething, like, stop calling me that, kid. That's right. Not what I am at all. But this is where he mentions Quinlan Voss and the path. And she's like, stop, what did you say? Right. Like immediately. And this is, that part of her memory is kicked in, like Quinlan Voss, either, hey, I know him and I need to go find him because I was in love with him, or I know that name and there's something compelling me to go find out more about it. And I don't know what it is because the Dathomirian magic has kind of wiped out that heart's desire portion of it all. Right.
Yeah.
That's how I was reading this. But then when we get to the last episode, I'm like, well, that doesn't really track now. So more on that here in just a little bit. But nonetheless, they start trying to outrun the Empire. This is all culminating, of course, until they get to the space dock when she's about to send him on his way. We get the what is it? The 500th brother. What number is he?
I think we're probably up well over 12 now. So 12 or 13, 14.
Let's just call him the 27th brother shows up.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
But he was like, okay, so this guy was like, he seemed well versed in like, because
much more competent than the other.
Much more competent than half the other schmucks that we've had that have showed up in the past. And I'm including a lot of the ones that have been in other episodes and a lot of other stuff. But this guy was holding his own against Asajj Ventress, because when she pulled out the lightsaber, it's like, okay, she's going to dispatch him like quickly. This isn't even going to be much of a fight.
That's what we thought in the trailer, right? I think that's what we said. Yeah. This is going to be easy because the Inquisitors are a joke.
They're a joke. And that turned out not to be the case. I mean, he really had the upper hand here for the first part. And then when she picks up Lyko's blade and she went to two-handed, I'm like, oh, that's it. Game over. Right. There's no way this guy is going to take her now that she has two lightsabers, which is what she's always been known for. And yet he still ended up, he threw her back with the Force and knocked both lightsabers out of her hands. And she was about to get sliced had it not been for Lyko, right? Which I guess makes sense because, she now feels almost indebted to him because he saved her life, and he basically called her out on that a little bit later.
Right.
Totally took me by surprise that this guy was as competent as he was. And we didn't get a name. I didn't even look at the credits. Did it say anything? Just said Inquisitor?
I don't recall seeing. Yeah, it was just Inquisitor. Yeah. I went through this. It was surprising to see Asajj Ventress be handled like somewhat easily. She kind of held her own in some places, but it seems like either she's rusty or like this Inquisitor really just was that good, or maybe a little combination of both. So that was really surprising. And it was, Well, I wanted to see Asajj Ventress kind of kick butt and kind of reassert herself. I think it makes sense that she struggles a little bit here. And again, defending somebody else is a little bit foreign to her as well. And I mean, she's fighting for her own life at this point, though. But yeah, she gets handled pretty easily. And it was nice to see the Inquisitors not be such a joke. I think for so long, they either like Ahsoka dispatched one so easily, very Obi-Wan, Darth Maul and Rebels, of course, at the end of that one. And but I think, and we've seen other Inquisitors just, keel over really quickly, or they're just more of they're just a joke.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see. It was nice to see that not be the case here, and that they actually they are legitimately, badasses, and some have really leaned into this work and are pretty good at it. And so any Jedi that they're hunting, really should be feared, because they will come and get you. And that they're hunting the kid, they didn't expect to see Asajj Ventress, but even still, she's still not the target, right? They still just want the boy.
Yeah. And he knows who she is, right? I mean, he even says,
he figures it out pretty fast.
Yeah, you don't fight like a Jedi. I know who you are. You should have stayed dead. So he's well aware of the fact that, she died at the hands of Count Dooku. I don't know how that came out, because Dooku died before the Clone Wars even started, like right before the Clone Wars ended. So how did he know, right? But maybe there's a clue there. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, she did get a strike on his helmet at one point. So she was holding her own for a while there, but she did kind of get tossed around there a little bit later. And I'd probably chalk some of that up to her, I don't know, having just died, I guess. Maybe there's something there, but we don't know how much time has passed from when she died to, whenever this is taking place. I've seen everything from 17 BBY, if you want to go in the court of it's after. And then I've seen everything to it's just right before we see her in the Bad Batch air. Let's see. Got some comments real quick. Here it is. Her fight versus the Inquisitor is one of many reasons why I think the story is set before the Bad Batch appearance. She is indeed rusty after being revived from the dead. I don't believe that any Inquisitor can possibly overpower her that easily. I mean, where she left off, even where she left off in the book, I don't know that any Inquisitor would have been able to take her. I mean, she went head to head with Anakin at the very end of the Clone Wars. Remember when they went and fought each other? Like, she put up a pretty darn good fight, and that's Anakin Skywalker, So
yeah, she's always been capable of holding her own, and she's always been able to get out of jams. And so that she struggled with this one again. She was kind of watching a kid off to the side too, and not sure about what to do. And he was injured, so she was a little distracted. And that's a new component to her fighting. She's not used to defending
think about somebody else. Oh,
yeah, and that she cares. It's something different. But yeah, this definitely seems like she used to be able to hold her own. And it hasn't been that long. So again, I'm just going to chalk it up that we should just take from this that this Inquisitor just really was that good in combat.
Yeah, it'd have to be. That'd be the simplest answer.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way this episode ended was awesome. The fact that, she said what we knew was she was going to say, which is, look, kid, I'm not this Jedi that you think I am. I'm actually someone who killed a lot of Jedi and probably killed people you knew. And my name is Asajj Ventress. And you can see it all over his face. Like, oh my goodness, what have I got myself into? So
right.
Love the way that ended. But let's get into the second episode, which is Friends. And so some time has passed now. Looks like they've maybe kind of hopped around a couple different cities, because they're coming here to this one planet where, it's a totally different planet from where they left. It's not a desert town. This is a, urban city kind of thing. Never said where it was at.
Right.
But, this is where he takes that shot at her and says, look, I saved your life kind of thing. And she mentions that she's not looking, she's not trying to kill anybody, that she's actually looking for someone specific. And, that being probably, Quinlan Voss or Latz Razzie, I guess, is really where this is going. They eventually get to, it feels very convenient. I don't really want to spend a lot of time on that part, but Latz shows up again. Cool to see her back. Part of Boba Fett's crew. What were they called? Is it
Crate's Claw? Yeah.
Yeah. That whole group, still around. A lot of them are still around, but we get C-21 back, which, when we broke down the trailer, I don't remember C-21 crawling around like that, but maybe he did. I couldn't recall, like, that spider crawl thing that he did. Mm-hmm. We were freaking out about, like, what the heck is that? Because it was a very Grievous kind of move.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, they get reunited. We got to see her use her little whip thing. She looks older, of course, at this point. Why wouldn't she look older? But yeah, they're, after they take down that one guy, this is where he finally, after she told him, don't act like a Jedi, you smell like a Jedi. He's like, oh yes, the loss of life is very tragic. Right. right, didn't even last like 5 minutes, and it's already, you know, his Jedi's coming out, which needs to be put away here.
Yeah, and Latz sees through all this stuff really, really quickly. Like their story of what they need to do, they want to go find the path, and like none of this stuff makes any sense to Latz, and she sees this through this ruse pretty fast.
Excuse me. So we get the kind of where they're going with the story. You know, they're looking for the path. Lat says, look, I can give you some information about the path, but we need you to kind of help us out with stealing this Imperial shield unit relay unit. And that becomes the whole kind of side quest type thing here. So pretty straightforward, but you know, she does deliver some shocking news about Asajj Ventress because he's already, you know, a little bit paranoid about, okay, who have I aligned with here, especially if she's killed Jedi in the past. And Latz really just kind of lets him have it. Like, hey, don't forget, you know, she's not who you think she is, right? She's going to turn on you, and you can't trust her, basically, is what she says. And so that puts that doubt in his mind at that point.
When that's exactly what she's going to do anyway to them. Like she was never going to like help him out anyway. She was going to sell him over the Empire the first chance she got.
Yeah, I didn't believe that she wouldn't do that, quite honestly. And the fact that they knew that there was a bounty out for these Jedi, it just feels like that's something that character totally would have done either way. You know, he exposes himself as a Jedi because he knows so much about the Venators and like the shield thing or whatever the heck they were even talking about, right?
Right.
Whatever that meant. Excuse me. I got a bad cough here. Trying to choke it down here. What time is it? 42:35. I'll cut that one out. So we get to the shipyard where they're trying to steal. I didn't realize what they were loading there. Well, I think we saw it in the trailer. It never dawned on me that those were the actual shield things.
The shield generators, right?
Yeah, from the Imperial Star Destroyers, which was really neat. And we got a lot of this right too, by the way. A lot of the speculation, frame by frame stuff that we did in the trailer actually proved out to be accurate. So,
first time for everything.
Well, it's, you know, we've done worse.
That's true.
But they're out there stalking around trying to steal this thing. Eventually C-21 gets spotted and, you know, all hell breaks loose. So we got a whole, you know, big firefight going on.
Right.
You've got Lyko up there in the middle of that thing trying to grab that unit while all that's going on. And sure enough, it's the drop ships. When those came in, we kind of predicted that's exactly where all that was going. But yeah, I wasn't expecting them to have to drop the relay unit. And I'm like, oh, great. Then once he did, though, I thought, okay, well, now there's real no reason at that point that they would keep him alive or at least not turn him in because that bounty's gone. Right. Yeah. So it made sense that they would suddenly turn on that way. But,
yeah, this was all pretty cookie cutter, actually. Like I was watching this. I'm like, okay, he's going to lose it. And then they're going to turn on him because he's going to be valuable. And it was pretty prescriptive in it, but I think the action, I love the lighting of these scenes. Anytime they're able to do this kind of in the dark and you had the lighting coming, like the ambient lighting coming from the rest of the facility, as well as the explosions and whatnot, and the way they did some of the colors did a really great job. And Zeralin was talking about Latz in the chat that the new animation style and the colors for her really popped. And I think this scene, was another extension of that too. Completely agree with Latz. She looked great. But I think in this sequence too, like the animation improvements really do give you a really great sense of in these scenes of being able to pull it all together and just, you know, fantastic visuals, I think. But it was very prescriptive though. And it wasn't super, it wasn't super surprising everything it went. And, but again, Asajj Ventress is kind of like the Darth Maul character where you just can't get rid of her. And, you know, even though they capture Lycos and kind of turn on him and, you know, get her off the ship, she finds a quick way onto the ship. My question was, did they not like raise the ramp? Like, how did she get back on the ship without, you know, having to cut a hole and, you know, leaking vacuum into space? And, or is this just, shut up, Chris, just let it go. It's just one of those things of, she had to get on the ship, just let it go, man.
Yeah, I hadn't even considered that, quite honestly. But if you want to take the fun out of it.
Well, she said check the hatch. So it looks like maybe C-21 just didn't raise the hatch from, you know, before they came in as they were making their escape is kind of my guess.
I don't know.
That seems like a pretty substantial oversight.
This wouldn't be the first time in Star Wars television or animation where somebody just showed up on the bridge. Right. You know, how many times have we talked about this? Yeah. There was something recently that happened on.
Yeah, it was a comic book happened.
Was it?
A couple of times that we were very unhappy about.
It's a very Star Wars thing to do, but no, I hadn't thought about that. But if you want to suck the fun out of everything, then go right ahead, be my guest. It's fine.
No, and I don't usually lean on some.
I know, I'm kidding.
But yeah, but it was I don't know. They dropped the case and all of that was okay, but the action sequence was fun. It was good. So
yeah, I liked it. I mean, I liked her having her make her way up through the ball and her standing there as the thing rolled down so that she could get back into it and then go to the very top and come out. It was all very exciting.
The inside of the ball was actually interesting. Yeah, it was actually interesting. And the way that she had to kind of, as it went around, that she's kind of climbing around is very Asajj Ventress. And I actually like a lot of those sequences that she's got to navigate that. And we see like continuation of just how spry and limber and acrobatic that she is, because it's just one of the characterizations of her, just one of her abilities, I think, that makes the character who she is. Yeah.
So they eventually she makes her way up there, and she cuts C-21 in half, and I thought, oh wow, they killed him, but no, he's a robot or a droid. So,
well, he was still alive anyway.
Yeah, he was still alive. Sorry, but I have to acknowledge this. I know Albert is happy today after seeing Liverpool lift that PL trophy. That is right, 2025 Premier League champions Liverpool today. Sorry, Daz, and a number of the other listeners that don't like Liverpool or like Manchester United. I don't know why, but yeah, we're the winners. So congratulations. I actually was going to wear my Liverpool jersey, and I changed it like 2 minutes before because I was like, no, that's a real like a-hole thing to do, especially since Daz is going to see this and he's got his kid, and I don't want to embarrass him. So yeah, that's why I didn't do it. But hey, look at that. There's another one. Boom. Jorge, man, love you. All right, that's the show. No, I'm kidding.
Now we got the important stuff out of the way.
Right. 47 minutes in, we got the most important thing that happened today out of the way. But no, so she cuts C-21 in half and then says, look, give me the plans, I'll let you live, kind of thing. They get the plans, or the information about the path, I should say. They get dropped off somewhere, and Lyko feels like, okay, I can finally trust her. So the trust thing is out of the way, which is really kind of the whole point of this little mini arc thing, because you're right. It was kind of cookie cutter, kind of predictable in a lot of ways, but stuff that we had seen probably many times in the Clone Wars, right?
Yeah.
And here it is getting rehashed or whatever here on.
Yeah, it was very much a Clone Wars and Bad Batch type of episode. And when they're 12 to 14 minutes, I mean, you kind of know what to expect, and they got to move through things pretty quickly. Yeah.
Right, they have to go. Yeah, there's not much time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the third episode, which is One Warrior to Another. This was. I can see what you said. This was not your maybe I don't know put words in your mouth, but you said this kind of wasn't really.
Yeah, this was end the least of this arc.
Yeah. And I can see that. Like I totally get it. I think the real story here was the fact that people were very much in allegiance to the Separatist army, and they felt like they were in the right, and they were doing the good work of the galaxy. And they were still holding on to that. And this was really Asajj kind of being able to tell somebody else, look, I've learned to let all this go. You've got to let all this go, right? That kind of got buried, I think, in a little bit, in some way. But I think that's what Filoni was trying to do when he put this little story together.
Yeah, actually, there were a handful, or probably 2 or 3 lines of dialogue that were probably the best dialogue in the whole 3-episode arc, actually. So that this was my least favorite episode doesn't mean that there's not really strong kind of messages here. And there were 2 or 3 that I think were really important in particular that I thought were really well done.
Yeah.
And we'll get to those here in a second. But there was a whole lot about this episode that was a little less than desirable. My key complaint about it, I'm going to say complaint, is that they rehashed a lot of things. So that he was confined to a wheelchair, like we got the Klieg Lars story from Attack of the Clones with the Tusken Raiders. We had the different riders, right, from the clan. I forgot what the little beings were that are on the planet, but it was very Mad Max. It was very Cloud Riders. They kind of had some Memphis Nest type of thing, like view of them. We had streetcar squeals, like cars that was squealing, like when they take a tight turn when the bikes were turning. I don't understand those sound effects.
I didn't catch that.
Oh man, there were at least 2 or 3 instances of it. I just didn't understand it. When the Imperial, did they say what his name was?
No, I don't think they were. Not even the audio description had a name for him.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, not Imperial, but the former Separatist. Like he calls them animals. It was very akin to Anakin in Attack of the Clones. It was kind of a lesson of the week type of story at the end of the day. Okay, my complaints are now are all out there on the
Okay.
open.
Well, let's talk about the better stuff then. I guess the good
Yeah,
stuff.
let's talk about the better stuff. Yeah.
But it does open up with them kind of right in this like turtle horse thing. And there's a couple I like the little jabs they were throwing where he was like giving her her canteen, and she's thinking, oh, he's being the good Jedi kind of thing, and then he's pranking her because there's no water in his canteen either.
Yeah, they're friends now. Yeah,
and then she smacked him in the like nudged him or whatever. I thought I was like, okay, that's good. I like that. I mean, I like that the chemistry and the dynamic there of these two people. I can see there's a lot of potential to keep this going if they want to, but they eventually show up on this homestead. We had predicted those B1 droids were probably there because of something like this, former separatists or whatever. That was, what he thinks of as far as trying to keep people out. And, she sees them as a joke, right? They're not, she's as effective as they were back then kind of thing. She made that comment up there. But yeah, I mean, he recognized her immediately, and like, he's got a bit of reverence for her because, wow, yeah. She fought under Dooku, and we were all in Dooku's shadow, and we're, quote, grateful for it, Lady Ventress, right? And he goes on to say, pity about the war. And this is where she finally comes out. And she says, look, both sides are wrong. Like I've lived a lot. I've seen a lot since then. And, she knows this person probably hasn't. He probably left directly from that war straight here into exile, or tried to get away from, the oppression of the Grand or the Republic. And so, yeah, he's still kind of harboring a lot of those feelings.
Yeah. What I really liked about this though is, Asajj has seen like what the true intent behind some of the war was, and I think it's an important note because the people of the galaxy, we saw this in parts of Andor, and we've seen it in other content as well, where the galaxy feels like, hey, the war's over, we can go back to being peaceful, we won, we were in the right, so on and so forth, and we see this with Saw Gerrera's gang too. But you have some who just truly don't get that nobody won. The only person that won was the Emperor. Like clearly the only person who came out like getting everything they wanted was him, when both sides truly lost, because one side has already lost and they were a sham in the first place, being the separatists. But then you had, or were taking advantage of in many ways and then being made into more of a sham. And then the rest of the Republic was basically sold a bill of goods, and now they're going to continue to sacrifice their liberties over time. So like you said, though, he's completely removed himself from all of that and gone into exile, and probably just trying to stay away from being arrested and, tried for war crimes. But
yep.
Views that, well, some of the things that we're starting to see or hear in the galaxy, we were right all along, when no, he was on your side too. You didn't see any of that. So I think this was a really kind of cool moment where Asajj Ventress, of all people, is one of those people to step in and say, look, we all got it wrong, and both sides got it wrong, and both sides were duped at the end of the day. And like, I love that component coming in when we have some characters who were so firmly on one side of the aisle, and maybe even had wanted to withdraw entirely, finally kind of step forward and see that and embrace that story.
Yeah, it's a good point, because it's something we don't see or hear or read a lot about. It's just like, what is that aftermath, and how do people feel knowing that they were duped and they were all being played by Palpatine at the end of the day? This is a good example of that, and her being able to kind of be that, the vessel for that message and the reality in a lot of ways.
We don't always see it like framed up so succinctly like Asajj did. Usually we see it, when we do see it, we see it in these very drawn out narratives and arcs, like in Alexander Freed's book, or maybe in Andor. We see it in these really drawn out arcs. So it's to just have it kind of framed up and laid at your lap, like, nope, this is how it was.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit different. I like that.
Yep. So the gist of this little story is like, hey, we're trying to find this Cipher Canyon area where the path are supposedly at, or something's going on there. And, my granddaughter can take you there, but in exchange for that information, I'm going to need you to go get some more water and kind of help her get the water, because, the raiders and all that. And so they end up heading out there. They're loading up the water. It's too heavy. The repulsor lifts like fall down or break or whatever. There's, the raiders show up. We get the whole kind of, chase scene sequence that happens. And eventually Lycos realizes, like, because Jedi can talk to other people without knowing much about their language, or just happen to know their language. I don't know. They've never explained that in Star Wars.
Yeah, he knew their language, I guess. Yeah.
Well, that's just so weird, though, that he would know that particular language. But
I chalked it up to the Jedi have a lot of experience because they go around the galaxy solving problems and having to interact with different groups, so that they would learn a particular language. Now, it seems very convenient, of course, but sure, we have to set that part aside. But that's what I chalked it up to, is the Jedi have a lot of experience, and he's a little bit older, so that he would have had to learn some languages along the way, or at least, I like that he didn't just know it fluently, and he kind of stumbled through it and had to think and stutter a little bit. And it was still very raw. I think that was kind of important to show that, hey, he's just not an expert in all things because he's young, and clearly they're not around long enough to be able to learn these things natively and very fluently.
Okay. Well, that's very, very generous of you. But
thank you.
I'm kidding. It's just.
Oh, you're kidding. Okay, great.
Yeah, I was kidding. Not generous. No, I as much. I would agree. That's probably it. I don't really. Again, I don't spend a lot of time on that. I just thought, oh wow, he knows this language. That's kind of weird, but whatever. But yeah, we learn from the raiders that, hey, this is their water, and this old man has been stealing their water, and that's why they're just defending what has always been theirs. And so he gets to the bottom of, the conflict. And now the big key here is someone has to go convince the grandpa that they're doing something wrong, which gets, Asajj put into that role, right? Says, good luck convincing the old man. And he says, that's where you come in. Like, this is going to be your job, not mine. She returns to the farmstead. And this is where we have like a really good moment of them kind of talking about everything that we just talked about here about the war. He feels betrayed and says this is his war, right? He's still a warrior. He's trying to find it. He's almost looking for the conflict, looking for the war to feel purpose again, right? We talked about that, the Bad Batch and other characters. What does that post, Clone Wars era look like for people that were in these roles? And, how do they acclimate to normal everyday life? And some of them can't get out of it. And so this is his own little war. He's happy to continue fighting it. She says, no, it's not. Yeah, you've just been fighting it for so long. You know no other way. And then she tells, she explains that Lyko was able to talk to those guys and that this is her water. He's my friend. We get into that. Everything's really happy. It's hard to let go. And he finally turns over the blaster, which, is this symbolism of, the war is over and, I'm not going to be the person that I was kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and you kind of grazed over it, but I thought when he says it's hard to let go, I thought that was one of the best delivered lines in the series, I think altogether.
Yeah.
It was just really powerful. And I think also it's a mirror of Asajj Ventress' story too, of it's hard to let go of your past. It's hard to let go of your sins. It's hard to let go of like who you think you should be, or maybe even let go of Quinlan Voss in some ways. It's difficult it's difficult to, let go of these things that you want and that you desire, and the sacrifices you have to make in order for maybe a greater good, or for maybe just a better life, or whatever it might be, whatever specific instance it might qualify as. But it was really just a really great comment as well, on top of just being really well delivered, that could have applied to a number of different instances, for any of the characters that were, standing in that space at that time. So that was a really good moment. I think I really liked that moment. I kind of wish, well, I don't wish the episode would have ended there, but I think on that type of powerful type of moment, I wish it would have kind of ended in that space.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean to gloss over it. We were just at 58 minutes, and I thought, well, let's wrap this up.
we had to talk about the soccer game. So
yeah, well, I know that's fair. I did take 30 seconds or 2 minutes or whatever it was for that. Yeah, no, that's exactly the theme of this episode. And to your point, like to bring it back to like you said, the Asajj Ventress part of her kind of letting go of her past life. That's, kind of poetry. It rhymes type thing. But, he at the end of this episode, they take Lyko and Asajj, get on one of those turtle horses, and they head over to this canyon where they find the ship and is being loaded up and potentially going to wherever the path is, right? This is kind of like their secret area where they load folks up that are either force sensitive or Jedi or had ties to the Jedi or are being sought after by the Empire. And, I was thinking, okay, he's just going to leave, because I didn't suspect that Ventress would bring along this kid. And why would she, right? She didn't feel like this isn't where her character would go. But knowing Dave Filoni now too, like this is kind of right up his alley. Like, that's why I keep thinking he's probably going to be back. It feels like those two are stuck together because of, like he says, hey, we're friends, and she before she lets him go, she says, this is your path. You're a good Jedi. You deserve this. You better get going, kid. It was very sincere from her. And we don't see that a lot from Ventress. I really love the way she delivered that line. And the way she kind of affirmed him that, look, you're doing a great job, kid. You're exactly like some of the best Jedi that, I hated, or everything they stood for. You have it in you. That's why you need to leave. You don't need to be with me. Like you're not going to get anything from me. You need to go be with Quinlan Voss and be with the Jedi. And even though all that makes sense, he makes the decision to say, you know what? I don't want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of you. I want to be with you. Right. We had this is like my first friend that I've had in a while. And, although this isn't the path of the Jedi, I'm choosing to go with you instead. I think that's a really kind of nice way to end the episode. I actually enjoyed seeing them and, riding off together, and they literally gallop and ride off into the sunset. And, hopefully we'll see more of that. But, that last line of, I wish you were on that ship. And him saying, no, that's not a thing to say to your friend or whatever it was a good way to kind of end it all. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this was, you're right. This was a nice way. There were moments here I really enjoyed. It was really actually a pleasant surprise to see them loading up a ship like for the path, right? So we didn't see the path specifically. We didn't get any other characters or cameos or anything like that we could tell. But it was really kind of cool to be able to see it. I kind of thought they would just end the episode and continue the journey, to be honest with you. But that they had it there. And like you said, the words that she says to Lake are very genuine. Like, you're a good kid. You have a good heart. You go with the people that will nurture that and will be able to bring you up kind of the right way and bring maybe this light back to the galaxy. Like, she's not that person, right?
Clearly.
She's not going to be able to do it for him. Now, he kind of recognizes that, well, maybe he can kind of help bring her out of that too. And I think when she's riding off thinking that she's left him behind and she looks up and, sees the shuttle flying off, she has that smile. Like, I think, and I kind of interpreted that as that she feels like she's done something good. She returned someone back to where they belonged, right? To their family and to the people that they should be with. And she's kind of given something back, right? She finally felt, I don't know, validated that she truly is capable of doing something good and something positive. And it was really kind of sweet to see her actually genuinely smile with no one around and knowing that there was some level of satisfaction with that. But what I liked about Lyco coming back, I was a little disappointed Lyco came back because I was like, okay, now I'm like, didn't know where this sat with Bad Batch and Omega. But what I did like about coming back is that she's kind of open to having connections with people again, right? She was off on her own at the very beginning of the first episode and liked that quiet, liked being, just distant from everybody, having her own little world, not having friends. And very independent, yeah. But now she's open to having someone that she can converse with, maybe not confide in necessarily because there's such an age difference there, but, someone that's around and that's competent and, and is somewhat fun, if you want to bring a word like that into Asajj Ventress' type of conversation.
She could use a little fun. Yeah.
She could use a little entertainment every once in a while. So it's nice to be able to see a different side of Asajj opening up, and it makes it interesting to see where that character might go. You don't necessarily want her to go too far down that path because I think that if she loses her edge, do we lose the Asajj Ventress that we love? I think is kind of the question. And I like her kind of being in the middle, right? She'll still kind of do what needs to be done, but there's going to be a new line that she will refuse to cross. And I like that's the area that maybe that she'll reside in, but ultimately still trying to do some level of good in the galaxy now.
Yeah, I see her moving towards like not to bring Dungeons and Dragons alignments into this, but
yeah, like neutral good.
Yeah, like neutral good. That's exactly where I was going to go. Like she's good at heart, but she's still going to be looking out for herself. She's still going to have her edge. She's still going to have her sass and her sarcasm, and she's the reluctant hero. Unfortunately, right? I can still see her being all of that, and still having Lyco there as kind of being that proverbial angel on her shoulder, constantly in her ear, telling her about how this is really how we should be doing this, and this is the right way, kind of thing. Right. It's a really neat dynamic. From Lyco's perspective, the thing that I thought of the most was from the High Republic, and most recently with it was Charles Soule, I think, who came up with the whole idea of a Jedi. Every Jedi walks their own path, kind of thing. This is another example of that where you expect the Jedi to be one thing or go a certain way, and suddenly there are now countless examples where Jedi just veer off in this path because the Force is compelling them to do so. And I kind of chalked it up to, well, why wouldn't he go with all of that? Something about the Force was kind of taking him in this direction. He felt the pull to be with Asajj Ventress for whatever reason. Maybe there's something, bigger they've got planned for him. I'd like to see him paired up with Omega as well. Maybe that's the three of them. It's Omega, Lyco, and Asajj, and they're doing stuff together. It could be a cool way to kind of bring her back in. They'd be about the same age, I think. Maybe Omega's probably a little bit older actually at this point, but
well, yeah, and Omega
if it happened all after that.
Well, yeah, and Omega ends up going and fighting in the rebellion, so If they did introduce, it didn't go anywhere. You can't ship them, Albert.
I'm not going to ship them. I don't see them together, but
I don't believe you.
but yeah, I mean, it was short-lived. Is probably the one thing I would say to kind of wrap all this. It's weird. I hope we get more of it. You know, we don't know anything at least as of this recording, but hopefully we'll get some announcements of where this all is going to go for Asajj Ventress. And it's, you know, again, it's good to see her character continue to live on and go into this next stage of her life. Right? Never thought we would have gotten this much mileage out of Asajj Ventress, and pretty happy that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, only one thing maybe missing from that was just understanding why she didn't decide to go to the path or follow with him and go towards Quinlan Voss, and give us a little more clarity around what her sacrifice meant or the cost of her resurrection was, and give us clarity. Or I'm not looking for true answers, just a little more clarity in some of the space. That would have been kind of nice though too. And I'm with you. I think I assume we're going to see Asajj Ventress in the future. It's a character that's popular. Nika Futterman loves the character. She loves the fan reception to the character. The fans clearly love Asajj Ventress. And so I think that this character could presumably pop up in other content. I would like to see her kind of in her own type of series. We'll see how well that works, for like a mini series type of thing. Maybe kind of like what they're doing with Darth Maul, or with, I guess, just Maul with Sam Witwer. It'd be kind of cool to see something like that in the future. And again, when we have content like on May the 4th and other animation, there's a lot of opportunity in some of that spaces. So I think when we hear something, I don't think it's going to be an if, it's going to be a when. It's going to be just how far down the road is that truly going to be. But like we saw with Sam Witwer Celebration, they've been developing his show for a year.
Yep.
It doesn't seem like that's been happening with Nika Futterman yet for an Asajj type of show, but you know, we'll have to see. And it'll be interesting to see if Asajj Ventress can carry a whole series, right? Or if she feels better as kind of a supplemental type of character, or a maybe not the primary character, but kind of a secondary,
part of an ensemble cast kind of thing.
Yeah, or secondary main character, right? There, she's got a foil, right? So her and Ahsoka, like a pairing type of thing, always felt really good for Asajj, and kind of like this with Lyko as well. But it would be interesting to see if she could carry her own series. I think that would be really interesting to see what kind of stories we might get from that.
Yeah, One Up says, I think she'll be in the Maul show. Ahsoka too. I don't know if it means Ahsoka in the Maul show or in the Ahsoka show, but either way, I'm good with both of those. Oh, this is great. Zor Allen says, speaking of High Republic, Ty Yorick is someone I associate with Asajj. I can see Asajj going on a similar path. If she had become a Jedi, maybe being a saber for hire. Yeah, she's kind of got that same, like, I really don't want to do this kind of, attitude about being, the good person sometimes and sticking your neck out for people. I mean, she's a Jedi at heart, but I can see where she's doing it for the money, and she just happens to be a good person too. So
yeah, she's kind of like where Lorna D has gone a little bit too. In the Republic
same
side
kind of
too.
Yeah,
I mean, Lorna might be, well, no, they probably both have pretty, similar arcs in that way. But Ty Yorick is a great character, so I like that comparison quite a bit. But I think Lorna D is another great comparison too.
Yeah. And
whatever, so you did clarify, he believes both in the Maul series.
Oh, in the Maul series. Okay.
I think that's entirely possible.
Yep. I'm for it.
I like that we've not had some of those huge, big cameos in some of the material, though. It has been kind of nice that they all can reside on their own without relying on the others. But we love these characters so much that we're happy to see them jump in and out from time to time. So,
you know who we rely on every week, Jonesy?
We rely on our amazing Patreon members, Albert, and they continue to support us. And we want to say thank you to all of them. KTDcast.com/Patreon. If you'd like to join us on a Patreon episode, we have Andor top 3 moments. We're currently planning that for next Sunday. I believe that's May 31st. If the days, or is that the 30th? I can't remember, Albert. But we're going to be doing this very soon. And we'd like to invite everybody to come out there and join us. So if you would like to, KTDcast.com/Patreon. Again, I'll get back out to the folks that have reached out already once we get all the names into the hat. And a special thank you to all of the folks that came out in the live stream tonight, KTDcast.com/YouTube. If you'd like to join these amazing people in the chat, June 1st, by the way, for the Patreon episode. But you could join these amazing folks: Zor Allens, Music Train, One Up versus CPU, Jorge, Alex, Polish Kid 88. If I missed anyone, my apologies. We see all these folks out in the background too. We hope you'll stop by and say hi next time.
Yeah. No, thank you guys for joining us. I'm looking forward to the like I said, the top 3 moments of Andor season 2. I actually started watching the first season again just because I had nothing to do this weekend. And it's a different rewatch now. I still haven't seen Rogue One though, which seems kind of
Oh, wow.
crazy at this point, but I need to watch that as well. But
I need, I'm not gonna lie. I need such a mental break from Star Wars right now because it's been like Andor is just so like dense and like so taxing to kind of think through everything. It's like making my brain hurt.
yeah,
So it's like I'm gonna have to work my way through it slowly again, but it's gonna be enjoyable. I'm looking forward to that show.
cool. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. We'll see you guys here on Wednesday for the Cad Bane episode, and then we'll get to the Andor show next week. Don't you dare take that comment off the screen. We'll see you guys then.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.